Welcome back again. This is Hope Channel Kenya. The program is Knowledge Quest. The subject is Social Studies, and I am your teacher, Mokaya Alex. Today, we want to discuss about wildlife and tourism. We compare Kenya and Switzerland. Then afterwards, we discuss about industries. Now, wildlife and tourism, we shall compare Kenya and Switzerland. We will give the differences, we give the similarities, and therefore, and finally, we give the contributions of wildlife and tourism to the economy of both Kenya and Switzerland. So welcome to this program. Now the first lesson that we want to discuss is the differences between that's wildlife and tourism. Wildlife and tourism. Then we are talking of Kenya and Switzerland. We are talking of Kenya and Switzerland. We can just be able to draw a simple table like that and then explain. The first difference is that in Kenya we have warm climate. The first thing is that in Kenya we have warm climate, and this warm climate attracts tourism to our country. The reason as to why we have warm climate in Kenya is that Kenya lies within the tropics, and Kenya is divided almost into equal halves by the equator. Therefore, all those countries that lie within the tropics, and that is the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, they experience warm climate as compared to those countries that are outside the tropics. Therefore, Kenya has warm climate, which is actually one of the major tourist attractions to this country. When you look at Switzerland, you find that they have cold climate. The climate there is actually cold. A difference between Kenya between Switzerland itself and Kenya. You find that in Kenya, it's warm, and in Switzerland, it is actually cold. And I've explained the reason as to why in Kenya it's warm, while in Switzerland it's very cold. Switzerland is in Europe, the north of Mediterranean Sea, and therefore it's outside the tropic of it's outside the tropics. That is the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer, and of course the equator, which divides the Earth into two equal halves, and which almost divides Kenya into two equal halves to the north and also to the south. Now we move to difference number two. You find that in Kenya we have the Rift Valley. The Rift Valley. In Kenya we have the Rift Valley, which enters Kenya through Lake Turkana. From Ethiopia, it enters Kenya through Lake Turkana and leaves Kenya through Lake Magadi, enters Tanzania through at a point at Lake Natron. So the Rift Valley in Kenya offers a very good tourism attraction to this country, and therefore it's rich in features. We have a volcanic mountain on it. We have lakes, both freshwater lakes and saltwater lakes. Examples of freshwater lakes, we have Baringo, we have Naivasha, and we have Turkana. And Turkana is actually a lake, a freshwater lake in a desert. And the saltwater lakes, we have Magadi, we have Bogoria, we have Nakuru, and we have Elementaita, which is also known as Kariandusi. Those are some of the lakes that we find there. So in Kenya, we have the Rift Valley. Whereas in Switzerland, we have what we call glacial lakes. This is what we find in glacial lakes. And in this one, you remember your social studies class 6, how glacial lakes are actually formed. So those are the differences that we can notice now. The first one we have said warm climate, cold climate. The second one we have said the Rift Valley, and here we have said glacial lakes. Then number three, we talk of wild animals. We talk of actually wildlife itself. Wildlife. In Kenya, we have the big five. In Kenya, we have the big five. The big five in this case, I mean, we have the antelopes, the giraffes, we have the elephants, we have the lions, we have the cheetahs, we have the leopards, and all those animals. Those big animals. Those animals that cannot be found in countries that are outside the tropics, including buffaloes and all those big animals. But in Switzerland, we actually have the wildlife there. Wildlife. In this case, wild animals there. They are actually small animals, which are actually birds, and another one called bears. They're actually birds and bears. So you find that in Kenya, the wild animals that are found in Kenya are big. Talk of the buffalo, talk of the rhinoceros, talk of the elephant, talk of the lion. I don't know those animals. Whereas in Switzerland, they're actually very small because these big animals, they live better. They find it comfortable living in a warm climate as compared to a cold climate that we find in Switzerland. The next point is that the sporting activities that we have in Kenya, sports. In Kenya, we have athletics. And actually, Kenya is the best when it comes to athletics. We have actually conquered the world when it comes to 3,000 meters steeplechase, 1,500 meters, when it comes to 800 meters, when it comes to 42 marathons. Kenyans have conquered many areas. So in this case, we find that these activities actually, these sporting activities actually attract tourism to come and see how Kenyans train and to come and see the terrain in which our athletes normally do. So athletics is one of the sporting activities we have in Kenya. We also have mountain climbing. Mountain climbing is actually found, we have it in Mount Kenya, and we also have it in Mount Elgon. But in most cases, it's more profound in Mount Kenya. And in Mount Kenya, it's quite very important because it's very interesting because the mountain itself is 5 kilometers high, and it's actually a national park of its own. Therefore, mountain climbing is very encouraging or very important in that place. Now, in Switzerland, the sports that we have there, that's number 4. The sports that we have in Switzerland, the first one, we have what we call skiing. That's the first activity that we have there. We also have ice hockey, and then we have skating. Those are some of the, skating. Those are some of the activities, the sports that we have in Switzerland. So you find that in Kenya is completely different, and in Switzerland is completely different. The reason is that the climate differ, the physical features of the countries differ, and even the geographical land terrain or relief of the land, they actually differ. The other thing that we actually differ, so that is fifth difference, is medicinal. We call it medicinal what? Medicinal springs. Medicinal stroke hot springs. Example is Lake Bogoria. We have actually Lake Bogoria. Those who have traveled to Lake Bogoria, you find hot water coming from the ground, very hot. It's approximated to be around 600 degrees centigrade. This is actually very hot. You can actually boil eggs in 2 minutes. You can boil eggs in 2 minutes and then find it. So you find that we have hot springs in Lake Bogoria. We have as a favorable ground which can also produce hot springs in Hell's Gate or geothermal, where Kenya has constructed the geothermal power plant, and we are actually harvesting a lot when it comes to electricity. But when it comes to Switzerland, we have mineral. We have actually mineral springs. And mineral springs, an example is there's a place called St. Maltese. This place is actually a mineral hot spring. So those are some of the examples. Those are some of the differences that we have noted. Another difference that we have noted is that in Kenya we have historical sites. Examples of historical sites in Kenya, we have Kobe 4 and 4010 in Turkana there. We also have Kariandusi near Lake Elementaita. We also have Odvai, which is not in Kenya. Odvai, which is in Tanzania. We have Olgesaile which is actually slightly on your way to Tanzania, but before Lake Magadi there. So some of those prehistoric sites are very important because they attract tourism. Now, the main thing with the prehistoric sites, as you have learned in the second topic of your studies class 8, is that that is where the remains of human beings have been discovered. Actually, those remains, that it's believed that those remains existed many years ago, and therefore considering Kenya as one of the countries that is actually the origin of mankind. You will learn more when you just join Form 1. Now, when it comes to Switzerland, there is no number 6 here. There is no historical site. In Kenya, we have a historical site, but in Switzerland, there's no historical site. The other differences, if we can proceed, you find that there are many differences, but we are only picking the main ones as we proceed. The other one is actually communication. That is number 7, communication. Communication. In Kenya, we have poor communication network. Actually, we call it in Kenya poor communication network. Poor means that it has not developed. We have not developed in a manner that we can compete with Switzerland, and therefore it does not attract any tourists to come and see what's happening. You can imagine some people walk for around 25 kilometers for them to make a phone call. Others walk for around 50 kilometers to just access a mobile network system where you can make calls. So in Kenya, we have not developed. The roads in Kenya are deplorable. They are impassable, especially during the rainy season, and it's very few roads that are clearly tarmacked and well taken care of. And the best example is the Thika super highway. Now, but in Switzerland, communication is well developed, and this one attracts tourists. It's well developed, and this one attracts tourists. We even have cable cars. We have cable cars, and people normally go there to learn and all that. When we were constructing the Thika superhighway, some people came from Congo, others came from Rwanda, others came from Burundi to come and see what was going on, and even Uganda. So Kenya, in as much as we are just behind, we have actually tried. But even if we have tried, we have not reached where Switzerland is. Remember, Switzerland is one of the countries which hosts main offices, important offices in the world. We have in Geneva, we have the headquarters of UN. We also have the headquarters of UN. Those are the ones we do have there. Now let us move to similarities. What does Kenya share with Switzerland, and see how similar are we? And again, we can just write. We have Kenya itself here, and then Switzerland. I'm sorry, I'm writing the word Switzerland in short. Don't think that this is sweetie. This is Switzerland. Then the first one is good climate. Good climate. The climate in Kenya, it's good, simply because it's warm, and therefore it attracts tourists. The same case, the climate in Switzerland is good, simply because it's cold and attracts the tourists. So in both countries, whether warm or cold, whether cold or warm, the climate attracts tourism, and therefore it's good for tourism. That's point 1. Point 2, we have snow-capped mountains. Snow-capped mountains. In Kenya, we have Mount Kenya. Snow-capped mountain, and we also have Mount Elgon, although it's not as snow, it does not contain much snow as it is in Mount Kenya. So in Kenya, we have snow-capped mountains. The same case we have in Switzerland. The other similarity, that's number 3. There's a similarity. You find that we have beautiful sceneries. Beautiful sceneries in this case, they include Rift Valley in Kenya. We have glacial lakes in Switzerland. We have plains, we have valleys. We have plains and we have valleys. Those are some of the beautiful sceneries that we can say. We also have We also have sandy beaches at the coast, and they also access some few sandy beaches, as although not as comfortable as the ones we have in Kenya. So they have beautiful sceneries. The other thing, number 4, is culture. We also have culture. Culture in this case, in Kenya, we have more than 42 tribes. And these 42 tribes, each community has its own way of life. And therefore you find that, for example, for instance, the Maasais, they have actually stuck in their culture to an extent that now people come to see how their culture is. People come to see how the way they live, the way they do things, and the way they transact business. The same case in Switzerland, they also have culture. And in most cases, if you want to understand fully the culture in Switzerland, you need to read the influence of German and Italy in Switzerland. You'll find that they actually helped in formulation culture, which is very, very interesting. I'm actually preparing you for history in high school. Please do one. Don't drop and go to geography. The other thing that we do share as two countries is, that's number 5, we share hot springs. Hot springs. We have one in Switzerland, and we have another one in Kenya, Lake Bogoria. We also have Lake Motis. We have that one. The other one is sports activities. Sporting, that's number 6. Sports. In Kenya, sports. In Kenya, we have the sports that people we are really identified with, and the same case in Switzerland, we also have what they are also identified with. Last but not least, that's number 7, we have wildlife. And in this case, I mean wild animals. Wild animals. In Kenya, we have wild animals. At the same time, we also have wild animals in Switzerland. The only difference of the wild animals we have between these countries is that in Kenya we have the big 5, or the big animals, as compared to the animals we have in Switzerland. So those are the few similarities that we have been able to identify, and therefore you can read more, get more similarities, get more details about it, know where these snow-capped mountains are, know where these beautiful sceneries are found, know why we don't have historical sites in Switzerland, and know how the culture both in Kenya and Switzerland affects. So in this case, we have talked of good climate, the warm one and the cold one, the warm in Kenya and the cold in Switzerland, and we've mentioned why it is warm in Kenya and why it's cold in Switzerland. We also have the snow-capped mountains. We also have the beautiful sceneries. I urge you to look at the atlases and check where these beautiful sceneries are. We also have cultural heritage. The Switzerland people have their own culture. We also have our own culture, which is actually one of the most beautiful culture that I've ever seen in the world, if I can boast like that, even like that. We also have hot springs. We have hot springs in both countries. The sporting activities in both countries, they also attract wildlife. They attract tourism. And last but not least, the wildlife animals. And I said the difference in the wild animals is that in Kenya we have the big 5, or the big animals. Talk of the buffaloes, talk of the rhinoceros, talk of the elephants, talk of the lions, and all that, as compared to Switzerland, where we have small animals. Those are birds, bears, and they name them. So for now, we go for a short commercial break, and when we come back, we shall discuss more as far as social studies is concerned. Invite your friend. Welcome back after such a short commercial break. Before we went for a break, we discussed about wildlife and tourism. We saw the differences between Kenya and Switzerland, and also the similarities between Kenya and Switzerland. For now, we want to discuss about industries. That's one of the factors, the subtopics that we need to discuss about as far as resources and economic activities are concerned, and as far as the syllabus for Class 8 is also concerned. Now, under industries, we will look at types of industries. We also look at the factors that influence the location of industries. We look at we look at the types of industries. We look at the factors that influence the location of industries, and also the contribution of industries to the economy of this country. Now, types of industries. The first one, types of industries. The first one, we look at primary industries. Primary industries. Now, what are these primary industries, and why do we call them primary? Does it mean that we have secondary and the university? Why do we call them primary industries? Now, these primary industries, these are the industries that process raw materials, from its original state. They process raw materials from its original state to partially finished products or finished products. And after that, the finished products or the partially finished products are taken to the next level of the type of industry, which we are going to discuss in the next few minutes. So primary industries, we have said they process raw materials from its natural state. For instance, we can talk of tea. We can talk of tea industries. We can talk of coffee. Coffee industries. We can also talk of skin that end up producing leather, and then we get shoes from there or leather jackets from that. Then type number B is secondary industries. What are these secondary industries? Secondary industries are the industries that process or that use raw materials that are actually not original state, but the products of primary industries. Take an example of a skin. It has been produced, it has been changed into a leather form. And then now this leather form is used by the secondary industry as a raw material to produce, here we have leather, to produce shoes. We have leather jackets, we have belts, the one we normally use to tighten our trousers, and all that. So they use the raw materials from primary industries. That's one point. The next point that we also look at is service industry. See, service. Sorry, let me write it properly. Service industries. Service industries. Actually, what I'm doing here, I'm actually simplifying what we learned in class 7. We learned about processing industries, we learned about manufacturing industries, and we learned about servicing industries. Most primary industries are both manufacturing and processing. Majority of them are processing. When you come to secondary, they are manufacturing. Now we go to service industries. Service industries, these are industries that don't give you anything, but they do service. The best example is banking. If you go to the bank and bank money and they walk home, nobody will know that you banked money. The other ones is the hotel industries, the hotels. Hotels. Yeah, we have big hotels in Kenya, whereby tourists come and settle. So those are examples. We also have insurance. Those are service industries. We have repair. We have repair and maintenance. Your vehicle is broken down. Your laptop has broken down. Your iPad has broken. Your tablet and all that. So those are the examples of service industries. We also have transport. We have communication. Those are examples of service industries. Transport, communication, banking, insurance. Those are examples of service industries. After we have seen the types of industries, 3 of them, primary, secondary, and tertiary or service industries. After we have seen the industries, the next level now we go is that what do you consider for you to set up an industry at a given place? If, for example, you have Nairobi, or you have Kisumu, or you have Mandela, or you have Garissa, or you have Turkana, or you have Magadi, Mombasa, name those towns. Now, for you to set an industry in any of those towns, what do you consider? That's what we are going to do. So our subtopic for that one, so if at all you're writing, you write factors to consider for the allocation of industries. Factors to consider when setting up industries. So we write factors The word factors is actually enough. Factors influencing location of industries. Factors influencing location of industries. The first one, I am not giving them in any order of priority, but the first one is that availability of raw materials. The first thing you look at is raw materials. This is what you look at. Now, raw materials, in this case, take an example of tea. Or coffee, or fish. Fish can be also a raw material in any given industry. You want to start a fish processing industry. You cannot take it to Garissa, nor you cannot take it to Moyale, nor you cannot take it to Isiolo, because in those areas, fishing is not done there. You can only take it where fishing is done. They can best be in Turkana, a place called just next to Lake Turkana, because there's fishing in Lake Turkana. They can be at the coast in Mombasa, Malindi, Lamu, Kwale. You can be there. They can also be in Kisumu, because we have fishing in Kisumu. They can at Homa Bay. We have fishing at Homa Bay. Then they can also be in Naivasha, because of Lake Naivasha itself. And then Baringo. Those are some of the areas where you can put. And then from dams, we have Masinga. You can place a fish processing industry in Masinga, near Masinga. So what you look at is the availability of raw materials. The other thing is the availability of power. And its supply. Availability of power and its what? And its supply. Power in this case, I mean electricity. There are some places up to now they have not really been connected to the Kenya Power and Lighting Company. And therefore, when you start an industry, you are not going to use human labor to push machines, human labor to produce light, human labor, all that. You are going to use electricity. So for you to place an industry or allocate an industry anywhere, you have to look at the availability of power and its supply. How is it supplied and how will you get it? The next point that you are going to look at is the market. That's point number 3, the market. Whatever you are going to produce, where are you going to sell it? Whatever you're going to produce, where are you going to sell it? Take an example. If, for example, you start a pork industry, pork, nyama ya nguruwe industry, and you have placed it in a town which is dominated by Muslims, be sure you will never get market, because Muslims, they don't take pork. And the Christians also don't take pork. But in most cases, you find Christians, they break the teachings of the Bible and eat it. But in most cases, you find Muslims are very strict with it. That's actually an example. I am not indicating that Muslim Christians take pork, but I'm saying Muslims are very strict when it comes to pork taking. The other example where you can put, for example, the market. If you start beef, and Indians, you saw yesterday they were celebrating of changing the face of their god. they worship some cows. If you get there, you lose market. So you look at the market. Where are you going to sell what you are producing? Where are you going to sell what you're producing? The next thing that you look at is capital. Do you have enough money? This is actually the purchasing power. This is actually the purchasing power. Do you have what it takes, the amount of money required, or facilities or machines required for you to come up with industries? In most cases, capital goes hand in hand with money. It goes in money, and the money in two cases. It can be money cash, that is, and it can be money in terms of the facilities you have. Can be a building, can be vehicles, can be machines that you have just inherited or loaned or bought and all that. So you have to look at the capital. If, for example, you want to start a shoe making industry, do you have the machines that are used for shoe making industries, or you just want to start simply because people are starting? The other one that you need to look at is labor. The other one that you need to look at is what? Is labor. And in this case, this one will refer to human labor, because not everything that you will do using electricity. You will not use everything. You will not do everything using what? Using electricity. You need human beings. You need managers who are human beings. You need accountants who are human beings. You need drivers who are human beings. You need watchmen who are human beings. You need human beings for you too. So you have to ensure, if I start an industry at a given place, will I have people who can work for it for me, or I will just be alone, and if you become alone, I doubt whether that one will be industry. The other thing, you look at labor, that is human, and also the security. Don't underrate, because the people you have brought to work in your industry, they have to be secure. They have to be alive for them to do what? To work for you. They have actually to be alive for them to work for you. So you look at labor and security. The next thing that you look at is land. You look at land. Where are you going to build your industry? Are you going to build on the air? Where are you going to build your industry? Your industry has to be built on the land which you own. If it's a government industry, like now Kenya Meat Commission, or Kenya Meat Commission, it has to be built in the government land. We also have those oil refinery industries in Mombasa. We have many industries. You need to know where you are going to build. The next point, which is actually the most important, and if I were to number them in terms of order, then this one will be number one, is the government policy. Government policy. In this case, you find that each government has come up with rules. Each local government, go to Uganda, you'll find the same. Go to Tanzania, you'll find the same. Go to Ethiopia, you'll find the same. Go to Somalia, although Somalia does not have a stable government, you will also again find the same. Now, come to Kenya, where we are. You find that in Nairobi, as in particular, you find that it has areas designated for specific functions. We have industrial area, basically for industries. And we also have residential areas. And we also have business areas where business is done, where we have shops and markets and all that. So you need to look at it. That's number one. That's number one as far as government policy is concerned. The other thing you need to consider as far as government policy is concerned is the legality of the business you're doing. You've seen all over Kenya in the last 3 weeks, the president ordered the destruction of alcohol. And he actually specified that illegal alcohol. So you need to check, is your business legal or illegal? And if you involve yourself in illegal business, then you are capable of punishment before the court of law. You are actually a disciplinary material before the court of law, and you can be judged and sentenced for the years that the court will decide. So those are the factors that you should look upon when starting an industry. Let me take 1 minute to go through the factors. One, raw materials. Where are you getting the raw materials from? If you want to start a cement industry, and yet where you want to place it, there's no limestone, there is, what do you have in mind? So an industry should be placed where at the source of the raw materials. The other one, availability of power and its supply. And this one I was referring to electricity. Then we also have the market. You need to get them. Where are you going to sell what you're going to produce? If, for example, you go to Kisii and they start a banana industry, and at least every home in Kisii has a banana. So where are you going to sell it? Get an industry, and after getting an industry, get to know where you're doing what to do, what to sell. I also gave an example of pork. There are some religions that don't take pork. The SDAs don't take pork. The Muslims, they don't take pork. So if you start an industry in an SDA compound, who is going to buy it from you? So you get to know where you're going to get it. Even the Muslims don't take pork. Then also you look at capital, the purchasing power. You also look at labor. Where will you get the people to work? And where you're going to place it? Is there security? Or you're going to take it in Mandera, where every now and again people are dying? Or, sorry, I'm not saying that Mandera is insecure, but people die there. The other one, we also have land. We also have the land issue. So you need to consider it. And finally, the government policy. The government policy, this is the constitution, the acts of parliament that have been put in place. You can talk of where to put it, the legal business, whether illegal. If your business is illegal, then you also become illegal. If your business is illegal, then you become legal. You will also talk about tax returns and also some revenues that you have to generate to the government. As we proceed, I want us to look at two things and then and finish, because we have some few minutes remaining. We'll look at the Juakari industries and also the reasons as to why Jwakali industries were established. If we manage to look at those things, then we call it a lesson, then meet next time for further lessons. Remember, I wish you well in your exams this year, and as you prepare to do your exams and join Form 1, bear in mind that life without Jesus Christ is not life. Yeah, life without Jesus Christ is just like a rock which is thrown in a deep sea where it has no future. So I am talking about the jua coming from the sun, and then Kali. It's very serious, yeah? The Jwakali industries. Now, Jwakali industries, the first thing we look at here is that what are the characteristics? Characteristics. Yeah? Characteristics. Yeah? If you want to spell the word properly, pronounce it as you write. Characteristics. Yeah? We'll learn that one in English. Now, the first one, they are small. The Jwakali industries are small. The Jwakali industries, number one, they are small and use simple tools. They are small and use simple tools. You find somebody has a hammer, maybe a burner to burn things, and maybe a hacksaw, the one which you normally use to cut metals. And at the end of the day, that marks the end of the industry. And they can produce things which people can do. You get the jikos, you get the boxes that you normally carry to Form 1. You will carry a metal box, my friend. Don't think that you carry a suitcase. You carry a metal box if you want your things to be safe. So you have to go to the Jwakali industry and get one, because we don't import these things. The other thing that you look at is they require, that's characteristic number 2, they require little capital. Little capital. They require a little what? Little capital. You don't need a lot of money to go and start a business, to go and start a Jwakali industry. If you can start with 10,000, a small amount of money, or 5,000, or nothing, because you can go, you borrow. You borrow a hammer, you borrow a hacksaw, you borrow a banner, or you come partnership, and at the end of the day, you have started business. So they require little capital. And as they require little capital, another characteristic then which comes in mind is they require legal procedures. They require little legal. I don't know whether I've put that point properly. Remember, this was your studies. Little legal procedures. Little in this manner, I normally say they are not complex. As you can start an industry, you have to look at the Act of Kenya, the Act of Parliament, as far as that industry is concerned. You go to the Attorney General, you do what we call name search, you register the business and all that. In this case, there's nothing in the Kenya business. You only need to get a shop next to the road and then put your things and then start working. So it's just actually simple legal procedures that are needed, so long as you are conducting legal business. The next characteristics, it actually uses local resources. Local resources. The Jwakali, the people, they don't import. They just get things locally and produce, and then they make money. And in most cases, if you get a very good artisan who makes nicely and polishes nicely and displays them nicely, you may even think it's imported, only to find that it's just made just behind the building where you're buying it. And then the other thing that which normally tells us it's actually a Jwakali industry, they are managed by individuals. Individuals or an individual. You find it's only one person doing the whole business. When he's sick, the business is sick. When he's away for a journey, the business is also away for a journey. So they are managed by individuals. Not as by the company. You know, the company, when you start a company or an industry, it has many people. When you are away, still the business runs. But now with the Jwakali industry, maybe you are alone there. You've gone to see your son or your daughter in school, you close and go, and you will only open when you've come back. The other thing that we can also see is that the goods manufactured are sold locally, and therefore it uses local market. The goods manufactured are sold locally, and therefore it uses local markets. Kenya, we don't export anything from Jwakali. Look at the pans we normally use for cooking chapati, for cooking mayai and all that. They are just made locally, and nobody will export those ones. The Wazungus have many advanced things. It's us who have who are actually behind the schedule. Although we are not behind because we cannot compare with them. For instance, America gained independence in 1776 from the Britain. That is, I'm talking of the USA. And Kenya was colonized in 1895. So 100 years after gaining independence, that's when we were colonized. And we gained in 1963, that's when we gained independence. So you can see, it's almost 163 years. So we cannot compete with those people, but we have to struggle and compete in this world as we wait for Jesus Christ. So those are some of the characteristics of Juakali Industries. I have said they are small and use simple tools. They require little capital. They don't require complex legal procedures for you to start that business. You only need to pay the county government for registration and for a license of operating. Then they use local resources. The resources usually are locally available. Then they are managed by an individual or two individuals. Then their market is actually a local market. Now, what we want us to look at last is that the reasons for establishing Juakali Industries. Why were the Juakali Industries started? And why were they started? Of course, they were started by the government and they're being promoted by the government. But why were they started? In first place, why were they started? Why don't we train our kids, our children, white-collar jobs? Why were they started? Number one, so we give reasons as to why they started. Reasons. Number one, the reason as to why they were started. The first reason number one, to spread or to speed industrialization is actually to ensure that Kenya is moving at a speed at which it will achieve its industrialization goals. That's why it was started. That's number one. You are going to learn about industrialization in topic number 2 of your Form 2 syllabus. So please work hard and go there. The other thing is to create job opportunities. That's number 2. Job opportunities. Job opportunities. Remember, nowadays there's no employment. So whatever you do with your hands is actually, that's why you have employed. So those who start Juakali Industries, they employ themselves and life move on. They earn a living. They make life better. They develop. And at the end of the day, they are people worthy to stand before people in the society and give contributions. And the other thing is that to absorb. I am not saying that you drop from school so that you get absorbed in Juakali Industries. But in most cases, they were started to absorb primary and secondary school leavers. They were actually started to absorb primary and the secondary school leavers. So in this case, we are not saying that you drop from school so that you go to Juakali, or you reach Form 2 or Form 1, there you disappear. After 1 or 2 terms, you disappear. And I am not saying that those ones who are doing Juakali Industries are a dropout. Most of them are learned. The only problem is they came from poor background, which could not support them in university life or high school life. That's why they ended up there. And I'm not saying that Juakali is just a group of cases. It's actually a place where you can be, but work hard first. Work hard. If you work hard and land yourself in Juakali Industry, the better. But don't lose hope. Work hard. The other thing is that encourage development of industries. Number 4, encourage development of industries. How do we encourage development industries? How do we encourage development of industries? By actually engaging in these Juakali Industries. You find that people are engaged in economic activity, and as you do this work, you gain experience, and as you gain experience, you come up with new things. You come up with new things in a new way, in a very interesting way, and at the end of the day, industries actually do what? Industries actually come up. I just want to give you a small assignment so that when you go read and prepare, you get to know. The assignment is you write at least 6 Just 6. Yeah, because you are a student, you need to read at least 6 benefits. Benefits of Juakali Industries. The Juakali industry. At least 6 benefits. This one will make you do what? Read. Now, thank you for watching. This is Hope Channel Kenya. The program is Knowledge Quest, and I'm your social studies teacher, Mokaya Umbane. Bye-bye.